Welcome to Phenomenon, a paranormal podcast. Don't fear the unknown.
Hey everyone, this is Phenomenon, a paranormal podcast, and we are your hosts, Christina
And Anthony.
And welcome back to our listeners, and for your first time here, if you're new, this is going to be a little different because normally we pick a paranormal topic that we talk about, but this time we are doing a wrap-up of a recent paranormal investigation that we did.
Yeah, you guys may have remembered earlier on in this season we did a wrap-up of our investigation of All Saints Lunatic Asylum. And we're doing that again this time with a brand new shop that we investigated here in Virginia. Now we're in Virginia.
Right. We did our first investigation in our new state, and it was definitely an interesting one.
Yes, for sure.
So we wanted to share little tidbits about it with you guys, and then you really should definitely check out the investigation on YouTube, which we'll put that link in the description.
Yeah, definitely. There was a good 48-minute investigation that you can watch, and it was really interesting. A lot of really shocking things came through during our investigation, and I think you guys will really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, we won't give it all away, but yet, there are definitely some things that were interesting that we wanted to talk about. And, this shop in and of itself is called the Flowered Cheetah Modern and Vintage Boutique, and they are located in Chester, Virginia, which is a suburb of Richmond.
Yes.
They have such a cool store.
Oh, it was really cool.
Really cool. It's a combination of some modern and vintage items. A lot of vintage stuff, actually.
Yeah.
And every corner that you turn in this store, there's something different. There's something either that is going to bring a lot of nostalgia to you.
Yeah.
There was...
You saw some stuff from your own childhood.
Exactly. There were a couple items that they had there that I literally had in my house growing up.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a cool vibe for that. And then they also have a corner where, they have crystals that they sell.
Smudge kits,
tarot decks, different things. So they have sort of a metaphysical area.
Yeah.
They have some more modern clothes. They also have some really interesting things that we'll talk about that are there.
They have antiques kind of artifacts, and that's part of their vintage.
Yeah.
But there's a couple things that came through we didn't even know were there during our investigations. We'll get into that.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, the best way to do it is I'm kind of thinking of this in terms of how we did our investigation, where we started and all of that. And one of the things, actually two things I want to mention. The first being that, for the first time on an investigation, we brought something with us that was sort of a motion-activated object that it occurred to us. It's something that we've had at home for a long time.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, it's motion-activated. We definitely could use this on an investigation. And so what it is, it's a pair of porcelain, it's like a statue of two red cardinals, which, a lot of people do believe that red cardinals are sort of a sign of visitation from, deceased family members, friends, what have you. But these are motion activated to where when they're turned on and something passes in front of it, they go off and start chirping like cardinals.
Yeah.
So...
And you have to walk in front of this or
Absolutely.
move your arms or something. I mean, it's not something that a breeze comes through and it'll go off.
Right.
You have to physically walk in front of it.
Absolutely, and they're very loud.
Yes.
So what we did when we got there is we put the birds upstairs in the storage area. So
an area no one is in, by the way.
Exactly. This is not like a part of the shop where customers go.
Yeah.
It's strictly storage, and we should tell you a little bit about the house itself or the building.
Yeah.
The shop is, in an old home that was built in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's got, your ground floor and your upstairs, which is storage.
Right.
And then it also has a basement.
has a long history for being built in the 60s.
Yeah, it really does. It was a lot of different things over the years, from a church to, I think, was it a fire? Like the fire department had something that they did there.
Something.
And then they had, there was a hoarder that lived there. And there are still belongings from that hoarding situation in the basement that they don't know what all is there.
I don't believe they've really ventured into the basement as much yet, because there's so much stuff from that person still left there.
Exactly. And it's a very narrow stairway going down to this basement, and very precarious. So if
you watch our video, you'll understand why that is so important.
Yeah,
but some interesting stuff just came out about that basement. So just watch the video, you'll find out.
See. So once, we had everything set to where it was going to go, we did a walkthrough of the downstairs using our Spirit Talker app, which is much like an Ovilus. And again, we have said this before, we don't really like to use a lot of apps.
No.
This Spirit Talker is one that we have road tested quite a bit.
Yeah.
And in comparison to a lot of other apps out there, it gives some really spot on results.
And what I like about it is that we've been able to verify it by pairing it with stuff like the Spirit Box.
Right.
To corroborate that what we're getting on this app is not just, random words coming through.
Right.
But actual evidence, because similar or the same word will come through in the Spirit Box at the same time.
Absolutely. It's happened on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
So, I've done walkthroughs, for instance, like at an antique store, and had it on, and have had it direct me directly to a specific object. For example, it's telling me that they're trapped there, and it's cold, and different things, and then it tells me a direction to go, and then it tells me the 1960s, and it leads me to something I recognized as an old, doll not doll, but it's like an old, not almost like a vinyl stuffed animal type deal that were very popular back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I see it right away and pick it up, and it was, made in 1965.
Yeah.
It's really been very accurate. So we did a walkthrough of the downstairs with this.
That was the first part of our investigation.
Right. That was really interesting. Let me tell you.
We had, you guys, if you've watched our videos before or listened to our last wrap-up, Allie was there, who is a part of our team, and she's kind of the sensitive, I don't want to call her like a medium necessarily,
more
but
of
kind
an
of
empath.
Empath, yeah.
Right.
She can kind of get a sense of things or feelings, or can even sometimes get images.
Oh, yeah.
When she's walking through of things in her head. And she was our camera person for this part of the walkthrough. She was kind of filming everything while we walked through with the Spirit Talker.
Oh, yeah. Well, there were some very interesting artifacts there, or antiques. We noticed when we first, went to the first section that we went through, and you can catch this on the video.
Yeah.
But right away when we started, we hear the birds going off upstairs.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Within like a minute of restarting the recording.
And so we verified, with the owner, that she had come back down after placing him up there, and that everyone was on the ground floor and no one's up there. And
you'll see this in the video too, but we should say that 3 of the store's customers were invited to watch our investigation as a way of introducing them to how paranormal investigations work.
Right.
Everyone was situated in the front of the store. No one had gone up while we were doing our walkthrough.
No, and it was kind of interesting to do an investigation that way. I mean, normally, you wouldn't have an audience.
Yes.
It was first time for us, first time for them, but it definitely was interesting for a couple reasons. So, but yeah, the birds went off right away, and no one up there, so that should not have happened. But they had this very, very old charcoal portrait of a little boy, and it originally had been encased in this frame that also had like a mirror back to it, and there was a customer who we happened to meet,
who we might actually have on the podcast in the future. So,
he is a medium.
Yes.
and he does tarot readings for them there at the shop.
Right.
And he wanted the frame and mirror part for his own work that he does. So the charcoal portrait was just sitting out on its own, no longer encased in anything. And when you see some of these old pictures of people from back in the day looking stoic and creepy.
Yeah.
Well, this kid had that down.
Oh, yeah. This looked like something in that movie, The Boy,
Yes.
Brahms.
Yes.
I mean, that looked like Brahms Jr.
Oh, absolutely. A cross between him and Eddie Munster.
Yes.
Somehow.
It was
same hairdo.
very creepy, and there was actually a date on the back of this thing.
Yeah, I picked it up because we immediately got a name that came across the Spirit Talker when we were examining this portrait, and it was Zachary.
Yes.
So I wanted to see if perhaps the name of the child was written on the back, and there was no name, but there was a date, and it was done in 1611.
Which I was very surprised to see that, because it was very lifelike for a portrait.
Eerily.
It was like a photograph.
Yeah.
But it was clearly written on the back, very old handwriting too, 1611.
Yeah, that was really something, that thing.
And I could be mistaken, but the medium who took the mirror home, I believe he said that he took the mirror home because he was trying to create his own scrying mirror.
Yeah, he definitely, for that reason.
Which is interesting, the combination of this portrait with the mirror.
Yeah.
They said that the activity actually, one of the claims, is that activity seemed to increase when the picture was separated
from that right.
mirror casing.
And we should mention too, that's what I was going to say now that you mentioned that, is that the reason we put the birds upstairs in the first place is that they've had footsteps constantly upstairs when there's nobody up there. So we wanted to make sure we had some sort of motion detection up there. And is it, the spirit of the boy from this portrait? I mean, we don't know.
It's interesting, too, because there's a little toy on a shelf in that same area that they report that it's been moved on its own.
Right.
That the store owner's daughter said that she actually witnessed the toy moving on the shelf on its own as if a child may be playing with it.
Right.
So that was interesting. All these combinations. It's like something was awakened.
Right.
When the mirror was separated from this portrait.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, since we did that investigation there, and I did handle this portrait.
Yeah.
We have had an increase of activity in our home. So,
yes.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, we could do a whole episode on that, but high strangeness and paranormal activity have increased exponentially.
Oh yeah.
Since our investigation here, and we'll get into more of that in a minute, but
that's interesting stuff. But the other thing that happened when we were doing the walkthrough, that was very interesting to us. Well, we got a couple other names. That came up. One was Francis, and then we got the word brother. We didn't know what any of that meant yet. But after we did the walkthrough session, we found out from one of the customers who was there that she had a brother named Francis who passed away.
Yeah.
So it was, we told everybody at the outset, if you, have anybody in your life or whatever that you want to see if will contact us during all this investigating that we're doing, that, to keep your minds open, to think about them, this kind of thing.
And we're very specific. Don't mention anything to us yet.
Right. Don't tell us anything.
Because we want this to be authentic and real, and make sure that whatever we get is a direct relation to what you're thinking of or what you're hoping to hear. And I want you to watch the video. But another part of the walkthrough, Allie had a moment in the same area that this portrait was that Christina found of this child, that she got an image of something. And it ended up being something completely related to an object that was not in sight whatsoever. Right.
And so we're not going to tell you what that is.
No,
you'll have to watch the video.
Definitely go watch the video, but it was very interesting and completely random.
Right.
But it's definitely something to watch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that was the walkthrough.
Now, the next couple of things that we did were two different types of spirit box sessions. And so there is a notation on this on the video, but we have to let you know that we had some camera malfunction.
Yes.
And that does happen on investigations. I'm sure if you've watched any, you will see that battery drains happen all the time.
This was our first time at this scale, though, because our main camera that we had left recording, we thought had gotten everything, had the perfect angle on everything.
Right.
This camera was focused directly on Christina and Allie, who were doing both the Essies and Spirit Box sessions. But when we went to go review the evidence, the files were not even just messed up. They were gone.
Just gone. And the battery was completely drained. It was a brand new battery.
Yeah.
Fully charged. And this isn't a malfunctioning battery, because this is one I use all the time for photography and have used it since on full charge, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So it definitely experienced a battery drain, and so good thing is what we had was our secondary camera that basically is used for B-roll.
Yes.
But Anthony had that on just at a different angle during the sessions. Sometimes he would direct it over to Allie and I, but a lot of times it was pointed down this hallway where we had our REM pod set up, and where it also would lead to that back area where those back stairs take you upstairs. So for those two sessions, that's the camera angle that is in the video.
Yeah, and again, we have to clarify this, that it was meant to be B-roll. We weren't going to include much of this angle because we thought we had the perfect angle with the other camera. But and I have to also say this, when we mentioned that things have increased at our home, that includes electronic malfunctions.
Oh, yeah.
When I went to edit this video, the memory card, or the USB I was using to try and download the files onto so I could edit, in the middle of the video rendering, it completely malfunctioned.
Corrupted to the point, the whole thing.
The thing, I can't even erase the file or restart the USB. The USB is just dead now.
Yeah, it's done.
And at the same time, electronics in that room were going off at random. One of those Alexa devices was playing music when I wasn't even in the room.
Right.
So it was very weird.
Voice activated.
Yes.
Technology with no one saying anything.
Anyone who has an Alexa device knows you have to ask Alexa to do something like that. So very weird electronics.
Yeah. So with that though, at least we had the B-roll footage where you can hear the sessions.
Yes.
So you'll hear everything, and there are times when it is directed at Allie and I, but you're gonna hear movement. You're gonna hear the camera adjusting different things, and it's gonna be pointed at the hallway a lot. But at any rate, we did get the audio of both sessions. Yes. So. We had some very interesting things that came across, and we want to leave a lot of that for you to listen for yourselves. But one thing that was interesting that did happen was during the Estes method session.
Yes.
We started hearing voices that sounded like they were coming from outside.
Yeah.
Now, this was after hours, and the businesses around this place were all closed. It's things in this town. It's a small town. They roll up when things are closed.
Yeah.
There's hardly any street traffic. It was very calm, and it sounded like people having a full-on conversation.
I heard this too, because I was right by the back door where we came in through, and it sounded like two men having laughing and having an actual conversation.
Right.
Pretty loudly in the parking lot, and I assumed it was one of the other businesses after they had closed down, and they were kind of just talking before they left for the day.
Right.
The store owner, I want to mention, heard it as well.
Right. Well, everyone, I think, who did, except for Allie, because
she had the headphones on.
She had the headphones on. And Estes Method session, for anyone who doesn't know, is using the Spirit Box, but with earphones plugged in that are noise-canceling earphones.
Right.
So the person who's listening to the Spirit Box and hearing those responses from it is only one person. And she can't hear what anyone else in the room is saying. So when we ask questions, she doesn't know what answers she's supposed to be listening for. She just calls out and says what she hears coming through.
Yeah.
So we could all hear that there were voices outside, and then I believe somebody, maybe the store owner's daughter or somebody, went to look, but there was nobody out back.
Yeah.
And there were interesting responses Allie got that sort of tied into that.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting.
And you'll see that, or let's hear that at least in the video.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was just a lot of weird things that came up. There's a lot of interesting stuff related to the store.
Definitely.
And it's past.
Right.
Maybe some of the artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of felt like they were at one point kind of letting us know that they had come down to talk to us.
Right.
Because in the video you will hear the birds go off a couple more times.
Right.
Upstairs. And you'll have to watch a video to see when they happen and what the responses we get through that SE session are.
Exactly.
Because it's very, very interesting.
Absolutely. And, we also, had a regular spirit box session where you can hear the responses yourself on the video. And we will just leave that to you to listen to. And when we hear very clear responses, we have marked down on the screen what we heard come through. Yeah. So
we encourage you, though, if you hear something during that session that we didn't, or maybe if you heard a voice that we didn't pick up on,
right,
let us know in the comments. Let us know what you heard. We'll go back to the time and see if we can hear it for ourselves.
Absolutely. This was a really interesting investigation. There were also things heard that were personal to the shop owner.
Yeah.
And this shop in and of itself is so cool, as I mentioned. But one of the things they had there too that you'll see in the video is they got a stack of mug shots at an estate sale. It's amazing some of the things you come across at an estate sale.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, whose ever estate this was, had this big stack of mug shots that were very old, like from the 50s, 40s, maybe even. Yeah. And why they had them, I don't know. But, there were varying degrees of types of crimes that these people committed. So it was really interesting to see, and you wonder just how much comes along with all of these items. And there was another painting that there were two shop owners, and one of the other ones was very uncomfortable around this particular painting.
Yeah.
So you also see that on the video.
It was very strange. And again, watch the video. But there's also a moment where it seemed like high strangeness came into play without us even asking. We always go into our investigations very professional, and we were focused on the location when we went here.
Right.
And that's all we were focused on. And we were getting a lot of great responses in that, and then all of a sudden, it seemed like something came through, asking for a very specific thing related to the high strangeness phenomena.
Right.
And anyone who's listened to our podcast or has watched shows like Hell Year will know when they watch this video what this interaction was all about.
Especially if you've watched Hell Year.
Yes. But again, we as fans of the show have never thought we were going to immerse ourselves into that investigation at all. We just really enjoy the show. Mm-hmm. But something came through that was not a regular spirit entity asking for something very specific that related to that thing. And it felt like the activity actually increased after that.
Oh, yeah. It usually does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was interesting because, to me, and this is part of what we talk about too, is, often people, if they see different shows, will think that a haunting, quote unquote, at a location is very specific to either the people there, the people who have lived there in the past, who might still be there, or that the building or land itself type of deal. But, we've seen it. It's not always just that.
Yeah.
Like, people like us, let's say, we bring with us certain energies that have contacted us at home or other locations, even whatever.
Yeah.
And I think what happened there kind of shows that, maybe it's not the location. Maybe sometimes we bring something to the table when we go to a place. And just like how we hear my father call me by my nickname.
Which, again, happens in this, too.
Exactly. But it wasn't at my home or anything like that. It was elsewhere. And that happened also at All Saints.
Yeah.
So, but I was very close to my dad, and, I really do believe that these energies can go wherever they want to go.
It makes sense, especially if he's looking out for you and kind of always wanting to keep an eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting when those energies come and they interact with other energies that other people brought.
Right.
Almost like they're like people meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and then how they respond to one another.
Yep.
And that comes through in this S-Season Spirit Box session quite clearly.
It was a good one, you guys. So, we really hope that you'll all check it out when you have time. And yeah, it's 48 minutes, but, watch it in increments, watch it, in sections of what we do, whatever you got to do, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and subscribe. And we have more investigations coming, and the next one that we have is going to be really cool. And it's going to be at a haunted mine location.
Yes,
out here.
It's actually going to be the very first mine ever produced in this country.
Yeah, they literally started the mining process here in Virginia, right where we're located.
And we're going to be taking you there. We're going to do Spirit Talker session there.
Yep.
We're going to get some footage there, and then we're also going to do an Estes method session there as well. So you'll get to see everything. We also have REM pods now.
Right.
So we'll get to test those out as well.
That'll be really cool.
And we'll do another episode like this where we'll talk about kind of what our feelings were and everything.
Yep.
But yeah, I thought the flowered cheetah investigation was really well done.
Yeah.
Everyone was very nice there. We hope to go back there again someday.
Sure, absolutely.
Because we always encourage people to understand that these investigations aren't a one and done thing. Like television kind of makes you believe that they are.
Yeah.
Not all shows, but a lot of shows will make it look like, you'll get all the answers and some sort of resolution.
And they're healed, and they never had any activity again.
Yeah,
right?
They banished the demons or ghosts or whatever. That's not how it works at all.
No.
That's just television for entertainment purposes, but it's not real investigation.
Right. Well, if places were cleansed all the time, there'd be no place to go. And places get visited and visited and visited for a reason.
Sometimes people are quote-unquote haunted or just bring energy with them.
Right.
And a lot of activity will also be linked to other things, and people don't always realize that, but there will be increased sightings of strange lights in the sky or strange, animals or creatures seen in the same areas that there's an increase in paranormal activity. I know the mine is not very far from a location where there's a local legend among people that there's a vampire who roams the cemetery.
That's another place we're going to go.
One day. We have our plans. I don't know how long from now, but we definitely want to go there. We're going to find this vampire.
Absolutely.
He's there.
He's there.
But there's some weird Masonic lodge stuff going on in that cemetery, too, with the person people assume is the vampire.
Right.
So we'll get into that another day, but again...
There's a lot of stuff out here where we live that, this is literally the birthplace of the country.
Yes.
So, the mine itself had a massive explosion that killed a lot of people. And, this is all Indian land. It's, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
This is the same land that the Powhatan and then Pocahontas herself and John Smith came through. This is that we actually live in the area where they brought Pocahontas through to go to England.
Right. There's a park named after her, not very far from where we're sitting right now. So there's a lot that we're going to be able to do. There's battlefields out here. So, stay tuned, guys, because we have got a lot coming your way.
This was just the beginning, but it was a great start to our new investigations out here in Virginia. And we'll be taking you along on the ride as we go through. So, thank you for listening to this week's episode. We want to prepare you for next week's episode. We're not sure if it'll be this year's final episode or not, but next week's episode is going to be all about Christmas and some of the spooky legends that people don't realize are associated with the holiday.
Absolutely.
For all you paranormal and spooky lovers out there, there's something for you for Christmas too.
That's right. It's not just Halloween's, my friend.
Oh no, it's all year round, guys. So.
All right, well, we're going to sign off, but stay tuned and definitely watch the video. You'll enjoy it.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Phenomenon, a paranormal podcast. My co-host Christina and I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode. Are you experiencing the paranormal? Have you seen a UFO in the sky? Do you think Bigfoot's digging around in your trash can at night? If you have a story to tell us, feel free to email us at the email in the description below, or you You can follow us and send us a message on our social media pages. And if you'd like to have your story featured on our podcast, we'd be happy to tell it. Either you can send in an audio recording of yourself telling the story, or we can read the story for you as you have written it. Either way, we'd be happy to share your story. There's a lot of weird things in this world, and there are plenty of stories to be told. So don't forget, don't fear the unknown. Have a pleasant week, everyone.